we are actually already manifesting the reality which surrounds us right now based upon how we feel, based upon our beliefs, our thoughts, our spoken word, our subconscious mind, and our action, okay, and our faith. So what we can do is we can think certain things. We can visualize certain experiences. And what that does on a quantum level is we start shifting our reality to attract that experience into our reality, into the now.
All right. Well, Joe Hehn, correct?
Yeah, perfect.
All
I
right.
always tell people it's the one thing.
Joe Hehn, it's good to see you. I see you got the black studded Starbucks cup that is so well sought after. I don't know if it
Happened.
was a hassle
I
for
needed
you to get that.
one. No, I needed one. I popped into a Starbucks. I was driving from where I used to live, Del Mar, San Diego, in that area,
Hmm.
out to Chicago. It was a whole thing. I had to come out here. My father was real sick, and I needed a cup. And they happened to have this one, and the guy's like, "Dude, you're so lucky." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "He just came in, and this is like the last one, and people are going nuts after this." I'm like, "Okay, well, it's kind of cool. It reminds me like one of those soundproof rooms, so I'll take."
Yeah, yeah. They're a hot commodity. I actually, outside of this, that's where I work. I'm a shift supervisor at Starbucks,
Oh, nice.
and you'd
Good.
be surprised at how like they're just to me, I guess because I work there, but it's just like, oh man, I think it's just a cup. But
Yeah,
so many people love those cups, and I just find it extremely, extremely interesting and fascinating at just the
yeah,
love for those
fascinating is a
cups.
good word. Yeah,
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah, it was just literally like 10 people told me after they saw me in this cup, "Oh, you have one?" I'm like, "What is it about this cup?" I didn't know. I was just like, man, okay,
Yeah, well, hold on to it because it might be worth some money later on.
uh, well, I have my security deposit right here. Yeah.
There you go. Well, Joe, I'm glad to have you on. I know you have a lot of content out there, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, but there's some people who may not be aware of what you do. Can you
Yeah.
just tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, sure. So I'm just kind of an average guy. I had a good corporate gig. I was married, living in Chicago back in like 2013. And my then at the time wife, we had been together for about a decade. We got married in 2011, but we were both in the bar industry. We met being bartenders in Chicago. And so I worked at a whole bunch of different clubs and bars while I was making my way through college and kind of stuck afterwards because the money was really good and it was so much fun back then. So we met there, and then we kind of took a little bit of a hit because her father was diagnosed with cancer. And so it was really, really challenging because he raised her, and the whole family kind of united. And she's from Michigan. And so we went back and forth, and we started a health and wellness business together, or it's called CHEW, Complete Health Education Wellness. And so I was already kind of in the health and wellness sector. She was the kind of the guru in that space, but I was learning a lot through here. It was more about diet and nutrition. And so we were helping her father, but then my wife, Jessica, at the time was also diagnosed with cancer. And so everything just shifted for us. And she was in the Christian community. I was raised Catholic, so it was a part of my background, but not a part of my faith. I just didn't really think about God, spirituality, mindfulness, anything. But in one part of my life, I read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now,
Mhm.
and that really helped me have this really vividly emotionally and profound spiritual mindful experience, and it kind of planted a seed. And then through Jessica's battle, things got really, really, really bad, and we had to rely on faith because everything seemed to be like falling apart. It was our apocalypse because she got really, really sick, and all the cancer, which we thought was in remission, because that's what we were told, actually spread to her brain in the form of dozens of tumors. So it was kind of like all hands on deck. She had to have life-saving brain surgery, just like out of the blue one time. And so in that same day, where she was being ushered off to the emergency room at University of Chicago. Basically asked my parents if we could move in with them, and they welcomed us up in, with open arms. And we knew that it was going to be our honor to take care of Jess as she battled this. And so for 10 months, that's what we did as a family. And I was the main caretaker, and we had to make a lot of decisions. But the stress and the anxiety and the suffering were just mounting. It was like that bubbling of the volcano beneath the surface, because we were facing mortality. So in one realm, it helped to expunge and kind of just eliminate a lot of surface grievances Jess and I had in our relationship, because when you're afraid of dying, you're not really worried about being hypercritical or having a low temper. All that stuff gets like incinerated in the importance of mortality. So our relationship flourished, and I was bathing her sometimes and feeding her and carrying her around, and we were visiting the hospitals every week and going to the ER many, many times. But through all that, I was her stronghold of positivity and wellness, and we still relied on the church that we were going to. It was a non-denominational church outside of Chicago, or in Chicago. But ultimately, her battle was just too much, and we never really saw it coming. But one day she just basically got an infection. We rushed her over to the ER again, and she had to be induced into a coma. And then 3 days later, I was told that she wasn't in there anymore, and I had to let go and pull her off life support. And so it was an excruciatingly challenging moment and situation. But she happened to pass at 3:25 a.m., which coincided with our wedding anniversary, March 25th. And so that was the first major serendipitous, almost like coincidental anomaly that really piqued my interest, because it was like, man, what are the odds of that happening, And so from there, I knew I had to give everything up, because I was just so highly identified as like Jessica's partner, and you create this life together in the reality and in the future of being parents and having that home and the white picket fence. And so all that I had to give up on. And from there, basically, I got rid of the health and wellness business. I quit my corporate job that I was doing extremely well with, and they were so awesome through Jessica's battle and everything, but I had to say goodbye. All of our stuff was pretty much in storage already from moving in with my mom and dad, and so I decided to go travel the world. And a dear friend accompanied me for a couple months, and we flew off to one-way ticket to Cartagena, and we started volunteering. And I was soul searching and trying to find answers and meaning and guidance. And before I left, I got a call from a medium. It was one of Jessica's friends, and she's like, "Hey, honey, I'm just checking in on you." And I was like, "I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but Jessica passed away 3 days ago, and she was living in another country." And she's like, "Oh, well, this is probably gonna be a little bit hard for you to believe, but I'm a spiritual medium, and I believe that Jessica's coming to me to talk to you." So at first I was like, "Okay, crazy lady, like, what do you have to say? Where's the pitch?" But she was just a dear friend of Jessica's, and she started telling me stuff that she couldn't have known. And so at one point, my very analytical masculine brain was like, this can't be true. But my grieving heart, that almost feminine nature of like emotional needing healing and nurturing and just something else, was all ears. And I was just like, I need this. And she said the first message was, Jessica wants you to tell a story. Jessica wants you to write a book. And then the second thing she said was, Jessica wants you to read a book. And so the first message I just kind of shelved because I didn't really know what that meant. But the book was a book about the afterlife, about a man who passed away and he was able to communicate with his sister from the beyond. So I read that book, and that's where the wheel started turning in the whole spiritual realm. And I read it right before like jet setting to Colombia. We packed a bag, packing backpacks and going kind of trekking through the country. and volunteering, but I was suffering. I was in agony, and I got to the point where we were in Bolivia, and I was physically so sick because I had ingested something, and the water's really unclean there, and mentally, emotionally, I was just getting by, barely, and spiritually, the tank was like kind of empty, except for Jess was continuing to guide me and give me advice through dreams and signs when I would travel, like really rare anomalies in the physical realm. And so I knew that she was somewhere else. But I also knew I couldn't live like this anymore. I couldn't keep traveling and volunteering because I was just going to break and it wasn't sustainable. So I had to make a choice. And I knew that if she's somewhere else, then that meant one thing, was that there's meaning to this life. And I didn't know what that meaning was, but I knew I had to discover that for myself. And I needed a routine. And I didn't want to go back to Chicago because every corner would remind me of her, and it was too much suffering and agony. So I decided to move to Costa Rica, where we had gotten married. And then I did a lot of more soulful work, reading, meditating a lot more, learning new techniques, reading self-help books and spiritual books, and just kind of gorging on all this stuff so that I could help myself heal myself. Because I had tried to speak with a therapist. It lasted like 1.5 sessions, and I was like over it. And there wasn't really anything out there. But I was making leaps and bounds and understanding the limitations of my perspective, that it was really leaving me feeling like anguished and suffering and giving me anxiety and panic attacks and extreme depression and guilt and resentment and shame and anger and frustration and all this stuff. And I started making a lot of connections on how I can think different thoughts and then establish different beliefs. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was making a lot of progress in that realm. And I drove from Costa Rica all the way to Chicago on an old Land Rover, another crazy adventure. Took like 3 months, spiritual and physical and emotional, and this awesome, rugged, beautiful, crazy, epic tale. And along that, I thought of the book that Jessica asked me to write. And I thought of the first chapter and the last chapter. And it's called Dreams of Antiquity. And I'll share a little bit more about that. But I'm launching that novel in like a week or two. And it's been a 7-year project. It's going to be a series. So the first book, Dreams of Antiquity, The Awakening, will be launched soon. And it's a really, I believe, humble spirit. It's a phenomenally beautiful story. It's an emotional story, but really beautiful. So, but as I was writing that book, I moved to Italy, lived there for a little bit, traveled to other places in the world, India, trekked through the Himalayas of Nepal, and went to all these different places, learning different stuff, like kind of expanding in different cultures, taking different ideologies and Sufism and Buddhism and Taoism and all this other stuff that would kind of be like this buffet of spirituality, and taking these pieces and making them a part of my journey where they felt relevant and where they resonated. And so I was kind of like puzzle piecing my own belief system, my own faith together, but all through the power of my perception, my mind, and connecting on a deeper level to spirit. And I was healing. I was making leaps and bounds and experiencing a lot more joy and clarity and beauty and vibrancy in life. And then all of a sudden I kind of ran into a friend who was struggling, and I started speaking into their life and then started mentoring them kind of just pro bono. And then I started doing that with another friend and then another and another. And I felt this very divine encouragement to be a writer, to be a teacher, and to be a speaker. And I started teaching. And eventually I moved back to the States, but I wanted to live in San Diego, and I was there for 5 years. And I learned all these other kind of beautiful, profound techniques and started really changing my life for the better. But what I ultimately started doing was teaching others on how to wield the power of their mind and their spirit so as to end their suffering, to have their mind work for them, to inspire and empower them to have these beliefs and to make that deeper connection with spirit so that they can transform their life. They can experience the kind of experiences they want, but basically that they could just have a peaceful existence. And if they want to do some manifestation, or they want to do chanting and prayer work and breath work and all this stuff, they can do whatever they want, but their mind is at peace. and they don't have attachment to life being other than what it is. And I started doing this professionally, and now I've got a really good bank of beautiful clients who are making a tremendous difference in their lives through the power of their mind and spirit. And I am their mentor. I kind of take them hand in hand and show them the signs, give them applicable advice and action and methods and practices to implement in their life to see that very aggressive, very accelerated, efficient shift in their perspective, which leads to a transformation in their life. So that's what I do. Super long-winded. If we were on an elevator, it would be 900 stories, but we'd get to the top. That being the little end of my pitch. So I'm releasing the novel. I mentor people. I'll be speaking, in due time. And I am a father to a little 7-month-old Oliver. I'm engaged, and I have a beautiful house outside of Chicago. I own some land in Idaho, which we're deciding what we're doing with, but we're moving back to San Diego. And I have a tremendous amount of blessings, but my perspective has guided me there. And so I'm very, very humbled with gratitude, but that's it. That's me, Joe.
Well, thank you for sharing that beautiful story, Joe. I can only imagine how it was. I can't even relate to that because it's just a lot, for someone to experience and go through. And for you to get to where you are now, I think it's a testament in of itself. And, it's a truly inspiring story. And I just can't say that enough about you and just what you're doing. And congrats on the novel, by the way. I look forward to seeing the content around that and even just picking it up myself. But you had mentioned in your story how you came from a Catholic background, and as well as your former wife also came from a Christian background, and you guys had mentioned you guys were a part of a non-denominational church as well.
Yes.
That is something I can relate to. I was a part of the Christian community for about 5 years. I grew up Buddhist, but being a part of the Christian community was a very life-changing experience for me because it was able to surround me with just a different community. And, I found I was able to find a lot of value in it. I was able to find a strong spiritual foundation in it. And coming out of it, I guess you can say I'm in my deconstruction phase. I don't know if you have ever heard that term before, but I just learned it not too long ago.
I haven't. I'm not familiar with it.
It may not even be accurate to what, I'm experiencing and what you have experienced. But anyways, I know a lot of the Christian community is very dogmatic, and I don't, nothing against that at all. I think what that community does best is exactly that: have a community. But I just want to talk about your experience coming out of that and then transitioning into spirituality, because I know they're pretty much kind of the opposites, but they're very similar in some aspects. I just want to talk about how you were able to go from, having this faith in Jesus and God, and then moving into spirituality, which is pretty broad, right?
Yeah, very much so. So great question. And I'd love to hear more about the whole deconstruction process and where you're at with things. So I'm looking forward to that. But with my own experience, I was in this space where I was fearful of my wife passing and was under the impression that if I prayed and I believed and I had that steadfast faith that she would be granted life. If you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could just have that mountain be moved by believing just with that amount of faith. And I believed I had it. And so when she passed, I was very confused because I didn't understand how you're told all these things and then the reality of it wasn't the case. And so I was angry. It wasn't hard one, too, that Jess was very much a part of the church, and then I got into it to support her. And so I would go, but then I had to start relying on it myself, listening to Joel Osteen and things, because my mind was just this gauntlet of anxiety and toxic negative thoughts of, her passing and stuff. And so looking back, there was no um, practice, no steps, no action, how to transform your mind into one of faith. It was kind of like, just believe, just believe, just believe. But when you have this entity in your mind that is screaming and yelling and cursing all the stuff that is anti-faith, how do you turn that off?
Mm-hmm.
Like how you do that? And there wasn't any kind of practice. And so I'm traveling the world at this point, and I had to leave everything behind. But I was angry because I had that faith. I didn't understand that while I may have had that faith, it was insanely diluted because I had all these thoughts, feelings, emotions, spoken word, bad delusions that were not faith-based. And so it's like I probably didn't even have the faith of a mustard seed looking back, because I was terrorized with my toxic thinking mind. And so with the Christian community, they have a great community, and that was something so much more than nothing. So I really did feel that embrace of community, but it wasn't enough. For me, I needed more than community. I needed a practice, methods, steps, action to have sustainable and implement sustainable change in my mind. But my heart was there, and it was connected to spirit, and I still prayed to God, and I really relied on that. So I learned so much, but I feel that I had plateaued in the Christian community, and that wasn't anything on them. They're doing the best they can, and like any institution, they're there to provide a particular service. We deem it as being incomplete, but they never promised anything more, and each institution is very different than the next. So that very much served me in the season of my spiritual growth. But I found that it had its limitations, and I needed to explore elsewhere to see if other institutions, other religions, and esoteric spiritual practices could fill in the gaps, the holes that I felt were missing. And so I basically kind of found that it was great, and I am now missing the community because I'm out here in COVID and all this other stuff, having a newborn, that we're missing the community aspect. And we've even considered maybe going to a church just to kind of getting a nice little taste of it. But that's part of the reason for my work and everything else going back to San Diego, because it was a really big spiritual community. And so we're excited to rejoin that. But it is an orthodox, that Christian, and I wanted more orthopraxy. I wanted the practice instead of just the wisdom, because the wisdom is like inspirational Instagram quotes sometimes, where they may give you that surge of inspiration and then you forget about it 30 seconds later and you dip back down into that unhealthy mindset. So I needed practices and methodologies that were actually sustain the kind of growth and lifestyle and health and wellness that I wanted and had to maintain in order to thrive, in order to hang on, and then eventually to thrive. And so I've discovered these through the different books, but a lot so just through the way my mind was functioning and putting a lot of connections together. So I established my own steps, my own actions through different practices that I've read about and everything. You can see the books behind me are all, it's a lot, and I have a whole nother bookshelf on that side, but there are a lot of Christian books on these shelves too. So they definitely have served their purpose, but I know everyone's journey is a little bit different. So I will always be grateful for my time in the Christian community, but I also felt that I was grateful to explore outside of it.
Yeah. And definitely very similar to your experience. I felt too that I was plateauing. And of course, when you're heavily involved, you kind of see, the operations behind the scenes that most people don't see. And so, again, very grateful for my time there. I've taken a lot from my experience there. But like yourself, I was looking for more of a practical transformation and just real change. And
Yep.
it was a great starter for me. Like I said, it was a great foundation for me to begin my spiritual journey. I want to dive deep into more of what you were talking about, the practical side of, transformation.
Sure.
From your story, you said you had went traveling. I'm sure you have learned a lot, in your experience traveling. How did you heal from the passing of your wife? Was there a practice that you started to implement? What were some of those? Can you walk us through that?
It's kind of like how I'd ask you, how would you answer? How do you keep yourself alive? What would be your answer to that? It's kind of a long-winded
Yeah,
answer.
yeah, it is. I know it was
So
probably very extensive, and
yeah,
because I know there's people that who are maybe finding themselves in that place where they're just like, I've done everything that I could. You know what I mean? I even go to church. You know what I mean? And yeah, maybe shed some light on that and what someone can do to help them heal.
yeah. I mean, it's a great question. My story's a little bit different because not everybody's going to find themselves in the situation where they're traveling the world, they're not working, they're volunteering for years and soul searching and grieving and processing and healing. So now I speak with people and they have jobs, they have families, they have a lifestyle, and they want to end the suffering. Basically, that's what I was looking to do too, is to end my suffering. So I just had a client interview earlier today where basically there's potential for us to work together, but I go on what's called a discovery call. So they're interviewing me and I'm interviewing them to see if we have this energy, this chemistry, and to see what kind of potential we have. But it all depends on what their goals are and where they are mentally to see if we can work together. So what ultimately I do now is help take a person who sees everything that is missing in their life, and we transform their perspective through a lot of practices and methods of mindfulness, meditation, journaling, manifestation work, yes, a lot of writing prompts, a lot of like basically spiritual work, inner work, a lot of these different things that I'm going to puzzle piece together. And we transcend their perspective to come to a place of gratitude for who they are and what they have. So it's actively training your mind to see your daily life in a different kind of lighting. So the mind will look for that. If you're suffering, you're going to look for more evidence to prove you are suffering. You want more pain to encourage the pain and justify that pain you're experiencing. So we have to halt that. We have to put a stop and go, it's like a diet. If you're eating, you want to do a whole lifestyle change. Well, we need to not stop eating food. Our mind and everything has to take stuff in, but we want to take in the stuff that serves us, that inspires and encourages us to feel good about ourselves and to feel successful and able to achieve our goals in the future. So we're going to do that by transforming our perspective of life. So what we'll do is we'll start looking at reasons to be grateful. We'll find those, and there's different steps to incorporate them. You do a gratitude journal, yes, but there's actual different layers of gratitude you can experience. And then it's training the mind to release attachment. One of the biggest reasons, probably the main reason we suffer is with that Buddhist background, that desire is the root of suffering. So desire means not like I desire to eat a piece of bread and I desire to breathe air and I desire to drink water. It's more of me desiring life to be other than what it is. And with that desire comes suffering, because life will always have the potential to be different than what it is, and we will always be suffering. If I'm a billionaire and I want more money and it's not enough, I'm never going to be happy, right? So when you have what you have, but you know what you have, and you feel gratitude for that, you become rich, a king, a queen. You are whole and complete. Thing is, our mind is so easily absorbed into attachment. So I will go through a step by step process to detach our mind from life being other than what it is. So it will be literally when you feel an emotional response that is less than peace, when you are upset, you fall below that line of peace, you're anxious, you're angry, you're depressed, you're sad, you're worried, panic, frustrated, whatever it is, it's because you're suffering attachment. Now, these are the steps to follow. But what kind of attachment are you having? Are you having attachment from the past, regret, remorse, resentment, animosity, shame, guilt? Are you having attachment to the present, anger, frustration, impatience, annoyance, or to the future, anxiety, worry, panic, stress? So different kinds of attachment will require different methodologies to detach yourself, center in on peace and presence, and from there, you establish a perspective of mindfulness. And then from there, you can incorporate like manifestation and other principles of connecting your energy, your thoughts, your spoken word, your feelings, your emotions, your perspective about yourself, so as to attract a particular reality for yourself. So I wanted to be with a loving partner. I wanted to be a father. I wanted to have a own home. So I incorporated methodologies into my spiritual life so as to attract that into my experience. And now I have all that. And I'm incorporating more stuff for the future while maintaining very deep spiritual practices of meditation, healthy, balanced diet when I can, and yoga, stretching, working out, time outside, grounding, nature walks, mantras, all the stuff to have a very abundant amount of healthy and inspiring, encouraging influences in on my life. So I don't do things like watch the news. I don't watch really like kind of discouraging TV or television shows. I don't allow toxic friendships into my life. I work for myself. There's a lot of stuff I've eliminated from my life because it's not serving my well-being or my goals. So I know, again, another long-winded answer, but it is taking yourself from this place of suffering, of being able to see everything that's missing in your life and transforming that perspective, elevating it, if you will, to see everything that you have and to be proud of who you are, to be in love with who you are, to know your value and to embody that truth. And that is radiating, casting a signal, which is attracting more abundance into your life. And from there, you could just ride that wave and just be this peaceful Buddhist monk, or you could become a master at manifestation and kind of draw new experiences into your realm, into your reality.
Yeah, it seems the key here is to really ground yourself in gratitude.
Yeah, very much a big proponent. Huge.
And what are your thoughts on, because I think social media is good and hold on, let me rephrase that. Excuse me. I believe social media is extremely beneficial, but it could also be to our own detriment. Because you can very much get caught in that comparison trap, which can lead you down that spiral of, of desiring that life, like you said, or seeing that what you don't have and start to feel like you're not enough. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I love how you put it, gratitude is that key to really ground yourself, to really see the good in your life.
Absolutely.
And
I believe gratitude is the supreme emotion. I actually believe that gratitude is love. Gratitude is joy, it's delight, it's pleasure. But gratitude, when you're grateful for something, when you say, I love you, you are experiencing the most undiluted form of gratitude for that person, for that passion. You're super grateful to have that be a part of your life, to know that person, to share that same breath, that meal, that space with them. So I believe that gratitude is actually what people conceive as love. Like when you're like, oh, I love this. I love the color green. I love hamburgers. You're just grateful for them. You're grateful that they please you. So gratitude is the supreme emotion. And also, when you're in that mindfulness practice, you're going to be at peace. You're going to be at that neutral mindset. But then things will happen where you're going to unexpected little gifts from the universe. Somebody's going to compliment you. Somebody's going to give you something. Something's going to happen. Some beautiful thing will happen, and that will take you into this elevated space of gratitude. And you're getting these little pops. And basically, if you sustain that frequency, you just become complete because you're grateful for who you are, your life as it is, and then that is broadcasting to the universe that you are a grateful person, and so that you are attracting more experiences into your life that will give you further gratitude, not more, just a new kind of gratitude. So you're kind of just swimming in this beautiful, fulfilled state, and more things keep coming. But gratitude is the key. But the problem is training your mind to exist in gratitude. That's the hardship for so many people who have overthinking minds, toxic negative minds, incessant minds that won't turn off. They're always being delusional about all the bad that could possibly happen with all the anxiety and everything. They're hooked on the past with remorse and regret and guilt and shame, and they keep thinking about how their life should be different. Or they're super furious about what they have to do, going into work and raising this kid or being with this person and having to pay the bills. And so it's hard because their mind is not trained to realize the gratitude. It's trained to find all the suffering through attachment. So the hard is training the mind to really flourish in that gratitude.
That is something definitely I believe is a lesson that I am currently going through right now as well. And, just to be vulnerable, I'm having to really, really fight for, that mindset of gratitude. And it's funny because that's literally, even before our conversation, that's one thing that I've been trying to, trying to be intentional of, being grateful, just saying thank you out loud. Like even before I began the podcast, like I was saying thank you to the equipment in here, not that they have like conscious life to them, but like even, I think just even the act of that, even just can help you get aligned, to be on the path to the life that you ultimately desire.
So one thing though, other people would think that the actual camera equipment is conscious. Because if we're all a manifestation of God, then what is conscious, what is not? It's all divine. So there's scientific evidence on that stuff too. Speaking gratitude and that encouragement, that love into your surroundings, your temple, that is highly beneficial. You're actually changing the quantum level of the experience, which then triggers to this level here that we exist on in that 3D. And so there's tremendous benefits. But speaking gratitude and feeling gratitude are two different things too. So it definitely takes a lot of time, but when you're in that zone doing it, you're doing yourself an enormous service by finding reasons to be grateful. I always take my clients on deeper and deeper and deeper levels of gratitude, because if you're not suffering from anxiety and from toxic thoughts, you have opened up all of this space. They say we think 70,000 to 140,000 thoughts a day. Imagine if we got rid of 60,000 of those. We'd have all that opportunity to see gratitude, to feel gratitude. And so that's essentially what you do by training your mind to perceive your life differently. And then you're in peace, you're in gratitude, and then you're just seeing your vibration is elevated through that process. But gratitude is the two things, if I could teach the entire world today, not that I came up with these things, just sharing with the world, but it's attachment, to release life being other than what it is, and to surrender to what life is and embrace it, and find gratitude in every moment that you possibly can. In a matter of a day, the world would be a utopia. It would be transformed because
Yeah.
everybody's elevation would just skyrocket this planet to a whole nother realm within
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
It would be a very interesting thing to see. And I believe I have faith in humanity. I believe we'll
Yeah.
get there, and I believe maybe not in our lifetime, but I believe we're on our way there with people like yourself creating the content that you're creating, and then others as well. I think we're very much on our way. It's going to take some work, but I am inspired, and I do have faith for humanity to move forward and raise its vibration.
Yeah.
Um, are we good on time?
Yeah, I got like another 10 minutes if that's cool.
Cool, perfect. Just wanted to make sure we're good. But that's beautiful. Gratitude is the attitude. And I think that's a mantra that, it's a catchy mantra, kind of cliche and corny, but if it helps you remember, because I know it's going to help me remember, gratitude is the attitude. But
Well, I can
yeah,
a step or two if you want, if whoever's going to be listening wants to know how they can incorporate that mindset into their daily life.
please.
So, two things. There's attachment. So I'm not going to go into a long-winded explanation, but I have YouTube videos on what expectations are. And so anybody who's interested can learn all about that. They're like 10 or 15-minute videos, but I don't want to take up your entire time now. But attachment is a very bad investment. And I lay the foundation for when or how that it is such a bad investment. And coming to presence is the place that will mathematically set you free. It just shows you, I show through math a little bit how that is so. So you can start implementing detachment from your life. So whenever you are triggered emotionally, basically when somebody cuts you off when you're driving, or you go to the store to get something and they're out of the milk that you need, or your spouse or partner is kind of being a jerk, you have attachment to life being other than what it is. So you can go through some steps and center by, one, observing when you fall below the line of peace, when you are upset in any capacity. Again, depression, grief, frustrated, angry, anxiety, stress. When you dip into that space, you observe. That's step one. Step two, when you observe that you're feeling less than, you reward yourself, just like positive encouragement or reinforcement when you're training a pet. You say, good job, Joe. I noticed that we've been triggered and we dipped into like a negative space. Good job catching that. You're training the mind that when we dip into that, it gets a reward when we lift ourselves back up. So we just lifted ourselves up a little bit out of that negative space, but not fully. Then you center in on presence. You center by coming to the mindful attention awareness of the present moment. So you'll do is take 10 deep breaths, really taking those nice deep breaths through your nostrils. Ask yourself, what are 10 things that I see? What are 3 things that I'm touching? This shirt, my shoes, this socks, my phone, my laptop. What are 2 things that I hear? I'm hearing the fan, I hear the modem, the murmur outside, the wind blowing through. What's 1 thing I smell? I may just smell air. But what you're doing is you're crashing your mind that's thinking these bad things, that's getting you in this kind of emotional state with task. By doing that, it can't think all this stuff because it's been given this objective. Calm and take a deep analyzation and inventory of the current moment through these 10 breaths. And then, so that's step 3, centering. Step 4 is you're going to ask yourself, why are we triggered? Was it because we are expecting life to be other than what it is? The answer will always be yes. Multiple choice, A, B, C, D, E. Yes, 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 yes. So we know that attachment is why we are feeling emotional. And then ask yourself, okay, I got cut off by the guy in the car. Who promised me that that guy wouldn't cut me off? Well, I don't drive like that, so I figured he shouldn't. It's always your choice. Why did you think that the grocery store should have milk? Who promised you that they would? Why were you under the impression that your spouse should act a certain way, or your child? Why is your boss a jerk? Or is your boss just being the person they are, and you want them to be other than who they are? And then you release attachment. You go, let me center in. I release attachment I embrace life for as it is, and you find a reason to be grateful in that moment. Think of your fondest memory, or think of a future memory or future visualization of a beautiful experience that you want to enjoy. Walking down a beach hand in hand with your loved one, beautiful bay, white sandy beaches, the ocean coming in. Take yourself to that beautiful space and be grateful for that, or find gratitude. 3 things in your life: your children's health, running water, you've got money in the bank account, a roof over your head, you have a pair of walking shoes. Whatever it is, embody gratitude. And you're going to release the attachment, center in on awareness, and establish gratitude, which lifts you from that negative space to a neutral state of being, and beyond that to a positive one. So we kind of tip the scales from negative to neutral to positive, and we end up in that positive space. And then your ego is going to be like, yeah, nice try. That guy shouldn't have cut you off when you were driving. You repeat the steps. So that's a little bit quick office, quick cliff notes on releasing attachment. And then write a gratitude journal. Write 10 things every single night that made you feel grateful. But the big tip is I was grateful for blank because it made me feel blank. I was grateful for the bird that flew over my head because it made me feel peaceful. So whatever it is, recap at the end of the night, write it down, pen and paper. And then when you read all those over, allow yourself to remember and recall that experience and allow that gratitude to flow through you again. And then do that every single day. Those 2 things absolutely transform your life.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing some practical ways that we can implement gratitude in our life. And it's you were preaching there, and I loved it. I loved every single. I know. I loved it. You were in that flow state, and I it made my soul smile, and I was so grateful for you, Joe. I had another question, but I know
I got time. Go ahead. We're all good.
Okay. Well, so there's 3 questions that I ask at the end of every podcast, but I specifically wanted to, I wanted you to share about visualization and manifesting. Just real quick, because I want to get into the final 3. But real quick, how can we manifest that dream life?
Okay. So we are actually already manifesting the reality which surrounds us right now based upon how we feel, based upon our beliefs, our thoughts, our spoken word, our subconscious mind, and our action, okay, and our faith. So what we can do is we can think certain things. We can visualize certain experiences. And what that does on a quantum level is we start shifting our reality to attract that experience into our reality, into the now. So the subconscious mind is responsible for manifesting or creating 95% of our reality. We can tap into this subconsciousness so that we can plant a script, something that we want to experience, and we can be very specific about that script. And if we frequently do that, that thing will come into our reality because we believe it is our destiny in a sense. So we're attracting it into our realm. There is scientific evidence that we are able to shift reality based on our observation. There's the double slit experiment. There's a lot of other things out there. The Japanese scientist, forgets me now, but he's speaking emotionally into the water, using that water to water the different plants. And depending on the emotion he poured into the water, the plant would either thrive or die if it was negative or positive emotion. So we can alter the way our reality unfolds by speaking positive emotion, thoughts, words, beliefs into ourselves, and also positive experiences. So manifestation is using what is called the law of attraction, that we attract that which we are into our reality by having intention about how we feel about ourselves, what we're thinking, what we're speaking, what we're saying, what we're dreaming about, what we're imagining, what our action is, what our beliefs are. And we could implement certain methodologies, one of them being visualization, where you're going to write out a little script. It's kind of like if you see a stage performer and they're about to go perform in a play, when they're practicing their lines, they didn't write those lines. Somebody else came up with the entire scene and with what they're supposed to say, what character they're supposed to portray, and they are practicing that. The thing is, we are both the screenwriter and the performer. Mm-hmm. So we're going to draft out exactly what we would like to experience. Say, for instance, I want a new car, and I want one of those awesome Ford Broncos, okay? I want one of the old vintage ones. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write out what that car looks like and be specific. It's got the navy blue exterior, those tan leather seats, it's stick shift, big tires, and then I'm going to see myself driving it. So how does the steering wheel feel? I'm going to describe what am I touching in the car. I'm going to describe smelling that new car smell, the leather seats, driving along the ocean, the coast, the ocean coming through, that breeze. What am I feeling? Like inside the car, what am I listening to? The rev of the engine, the wind coming by. What am I experiencing? And you're experiencing something with your five senses. So you're going to write out exactly what you're seeing, what you're smelling, what you're hearing, what you're touching, what you're tasting. Usually not such a big part of it, but you're going to script that out in that car. But see yourself in first person. Don't see yourself driving the car, drive the car. You're going to see yourself walking along the car, grazing your fingers along the paint job, feeling that beautiful polish, the little Bronco emblem, your fingers going over that, driving along, seeing your friends or your family members in there, laughing, having this experience. And most importantly, how do you feel? You feel gratitude for that experience at some level. The thrill, the excitement of the drive, I can't believe I finally have this car. This is an amazing experience. I worked so hard, or whatever it is. You're going to embody that authentic emotion within yourself and write that out. What does that look like? So what am I seeing? What am I touching? What am I feeling emotionally? What am I smelling? What is the actual scene? So my scene is I get into the car and I drive up and down the coast with friends and we're listening to music. That's the scene that I'm going to portray. So I'm going to write all that out on a piece of paper. I'm going to read all that over. And then right before I go to bed, we're trying to access what is called the alpha brainwave, which then seeps into theta, which then transcends into delta. Normal conscious living is beta. We're not really accessing the subconsciousness through beta, but we're able to do that through alpha, more so through theta, more so through delta. But delta is that deep sleep. So we can get a little taste, a little dance of the subconsciousness through alpha, what's called the gateway to the subconsciousness. So right before you're about to fall asleep, our brain wave goes into that alpha state. Also, right when we wake up in the morning. So if I have to set an alarm and I have to be up for my job at 7 a.m., set an alarm for 6:45 a.m. Have that little script by your bedside. Eventually you'll memorize it, but read that over, then put that back, close your eyes, and start walking yourself through that visualization. And see yourself holding the steering wheel. See yourself driving the car. Seeing the tan leather. Seeing the blue body paint. Seeing the friends smile. Feel that gratitude. Feel the experience. Smell it. Listen to the sounds, the waves, the car engine, all that stuff. And go through that again and again and again until you fall asleep. Or for that 15 minutes before you have to be up at 7 a.m. You're accessing the subconsciousness. That experience is seeping into your subconsciousness, and it's stating that the subconsciousness doesn't know the difference between reality and the imagined. It's stating that this is our reality, and it starts drawing that possibility into your reality. So things are going to start aligning for that to happen, but you have to take action. You have to believe. You can't speak words like I'll never drive that Bronco. I don't deserve that. How am I ever going to buy it? I'll never be able to afford it. Those are what are called limiting beliefs. So you're limiting the parameters on reality. So you're going to have to use the right kind of language, establish the right kind of beliefs that inspire, encourage you to achieve your goals. And then you're going to take action. You're going to work towards achieving your goals, asking yourself, what is something I could do today to actively invest in achieving my goal? And do that every single day. And what's going to happen is the universe, you being the universe, are attracting opportunity into your life. And when you don't have an attached mind, you're going to see that opportunity and be like, that's a coincidence, man. Like, this guy works for Bronco, and we just ran into him in a grocery store, and we started chatting. He gave me his card, and then something else weird will happen, and the reality will start aligning for you to get that dream job, start your own business, find that loving partner, create a passive income, buy the home, experience that beautiful Bronco driving up the coast. It doesn't matter what it is. There's no, I guess, like, limitations on what the universe can bring into your life or what you can attract. It's all what you think is reasonable. And so you can apply all those methods. I break down everything in on YouTube, but more so on my membership. So one thing I just wanted to leave you guys with, but I hope that answers your question on visualization. But it is a very in-depth process, because if I want to be good at something, I want to be really, really good at it and not kind of be mismanaging a whole bunch of mistakes. I want to learn the right way. And that's what I do through my mentorship, working one-on-one, and my membership, where I have a community where people are learning all about manifestation and mindset. And they have my entire course there. I have bi-weekly live calls. I have a ton of free articles and content and other videos to teach you all this stuff. And it's a very minimal amount investment every month. And then my mentorship, I work supremely intimately with you one-on-one basis. So you can learn all this stuff and do what I've done for myself and what my clients are doing for themselves, is find peace, find purpose, know that gratitude, like, feel it, embody it every day, and manifest the life that you truly want to be living instead of settling for one you think you've been dealt.
Well, thank you so much, Joe, for that explanation. Do we have time for those 3 questions?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, shoot. All right. I want to honor your time here. So I end every single podcast with these 3 questions. The first one being is, what do you define as success?
So, me personally, I don't think it's these things, this lifestyle that I have. It's just feeling and knowing that my mind is present, is peaceful, and is experiencing just an endless array of gratitude in any given moment.
Beautiful. Love that answer. And then second question, what do you define as love?
The same thing.
Okay.
Sharing that experience with loved ones, and having experiences that are even kind of the anomaly of everyday life, like watching the sunset in the ocean or taking a beautiful trip somewhere, is powerful with loved ones. But love, I believe, I would say, is knowing your true value and being in love with who you are, truly, wholly, and in an undiluted form, which then spills out into loving others even more so. So love, I think, true love begins within, and when you establish that, you really can experience elevated levels of love for others or other things. So it's more of that inner knowingness and the realization of who you are, and really embodying that truth and being grateful for it.
Absolutely. Knowing that inner truth and being grateful for it. Yeah. And then one final question, I believe you kind of answered it at the beginning of the pod, but what is the meaning to life?
I honestly just think it would be answer 1. It's just,
I had a feeling.
Being at peace with what life is, being in love with yourself, knowing your divine nature, and being grateful for all of it.
Beautiful. Joe Hehn, thank you so much. And then real quick, I know you got your novel coming out. When does that come out again?
Should be out in about 2 weeks. So by the time this goes live, I think we'll be in good form. So it's my website. I'm sure Matt will share it for you, but joe-hehn.com. And it's called Dreams of Antiquity, The Awakening. So that should be out by the time this is live, man. So I'm working the way through, going through all those steps and everything like that. So I think we're going to be there in about a week, 2 weeks possibly. So yeah,
Cool.
keep an eye out for it and check out the website and it'll be there. I've got my subscribership list and all that good stuff too. A lot of freebies, meditation guide on online and everything. So definitely check it out and let me know if I can help with anything. But thank you for asking that, because I hope a lot of people get to read that. I think it's going to be a really profound experience for you.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it, Joe. Thank you so much again. And I had a blast talking to you, and this was an amazing experience. And good luck with the novel, and good luck with the showing today.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Matt. Thanks for having me, man. I love what you're doing. Keep it up. A lot of people are learning from this, and I know it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work. So I see that, and it's inspiring. I'm proud of you. Keep it up.
Thank you. All right, Joe. Take care.